In this episode of the Brawn Body Health and Fitness Podcast, I'm joined by Katie Salerni, also known as Katie Lifts and Katie Paints, to discuss all things relating to the bench press, in addition to a lot about her own health and fitness journey. Katie is an incredible individual and someone who is significantly stronger than me, both physically, mentally, emotionally, you name it. She is a very impressive person, and I'm super excited to welcome her onto the podcast today. Before we get to the episode, quick word from one of our sponsors. Katie, welcome to the show. Excited to have you on.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
So, before we even jump into this, can I just say that you are jacked? Like, holy crap. Like, I like to think that I'm like strong and something like that, but you're basically benching the same amount I am. I think you squat more than I do. Like, you're very impressive.
Thank you.
So, how did you get into powerlifting?
I actually was a rugby player. I played on the guys' team in high school, and I intended on playing in college. But then the team at the Naval Academy just wasn't up to par. By my standards, they just skipped a lot of coaches' practice and didn't have the same cohesiveness and teamwork that I found to love in high school. So I was kind of looking for something different. Also, I did have a concussion that summer, so I wanted to do something a little less violent to protect my brain. And I found the bodybuilding team, and because I had never heard of powerlifting, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, this group just lifts together. How fun. Like, that's awesome. I always loved team lifts in high school. So I went to a bodybuilding show, and I was just like, oh my goodness. At the time, I just didn't love how individual and like kind of vain everyone was there. I have later grown to appreciate like the skill and intent and all that goes into bodybuilding. And now that I know more bodybuilders and know what it's kind of about, I have a very strong appreciation for it. But at the time, I was like, oh my God, I can't. These look like feastrels from Harry Potter, which is like those horses, you know what I mean? Anyways, so went back to school, and luckily my buddy from high school, Cole Metzold, his roommate was on the powerlifting team, called him Big Ray, and he got me a tryout on the team. And I was like decently strong, I guess, just because I lifted with the guys in high school for 2 years, which gave me a good base, and made the team, and then kind of just went from there. It was like incredible, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. It was like a wonderful escape. And then at the Naval Academy, you have zero liberty, so you are on the yard. You have 12 hours of off the yard time when you're a freshman, and so I had like a bunch of time to train, and so I just poured all my life into that, really.
Right. So, other than you said Big Ray, was he the only one that influenced you, or did you have any other like influences along your kind of powerlifting journey?
We had an incredible powerlifting team at the Naval Academy, and I'm so grateful because not only did they like save me from some of the misery of being a plebe, which is what they call the freshmen, but they just really supported and like taught me a lot. I was really grateful to have them. It was like Kurt Allen, Anthony White. They just taught me so much like along the way, and really inspired a passion for me to do my own research. And I actually did end up doing a lot of my own research and learning how to coach myself, coach others. And by junior, senior year, like I was coaching small groups. Carter Byrne too, he played a big role. And then later, Elijah Ellerman and Paul Deese, like they were always my main guys. They actually like carried me through collegiate nationals in 2019 because I had the flu so bad. And they like iced my neck the whole time, called my numbers for me. Paul carried me on stage because, you know, when you wrap your knees and stuff like that, you can't really walk. And all I had to do was go out there and lift. And they made it possible for me to win, and like made the team environment such a good time. So
That's incredible. Quite the support crew. Wow. So, you've had coaches through the Naval Academy and through separate powerlifting groups. Do you still have a coach now, or are you just primarily coaching other people with powerlifting?
well, actually, none of those people were coaches. Like we kind of all coached ourselves.
Okay.
Um, Not really the best strategy, but our coach was just super absent from our team, so he's never there. And right now I'm coached by Sean Noriega, who is incredible. Like always tells it to me straight, and is probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And then Kelly Schlager, he owns STS Performance here in San Diego. I just recently joined that gym, and it's incredible, like best equipment I've ever had. But overall, like I don't know, Kelly made me join that gym because just his presence and knowledge just really inspired me to go and just want to learn from him and be around.
Yeah. What's the environment at that gym like? Are people like, scared when they see you walk in, or are people asking you for autographs, or what's that like?
No, definitely not. So luckily, I work with like a bunch of other elite, I would say, lifters. Like Chris Dunsmore, she goes there too. Just a bunch of like really high level lifters, and then newbies too who just want to learn more. And thankfully, like I have not. I've only been asked for autograph like 2 times, which was really cool because it was like I was out in Philly at a bar, and the other time, some girl mailed me and asked if I would sign something for her sister, which was so cool and very flattering. But like, I don't know, I wouldn't want that environment in the gym that I went to because that's just kind of like my time. I'm usually really quiet, like when I'm lifting, and then after my lift's done, like super social. But I just like to go in and just like be with the weights, and it's like my me time kind of.
Yeah, you get in, you take care of business, put yourself in the zone, and then you
Yeah.
walk out and, you're a totally different person.
Oh, it feels so good.
Yeah. So do you work out in the mornings then? Is that how you start your day, or are you more like
Um,
midday?
I usually start my day at like 4:15, and I have to go to work, just because the Navy, we start our day pretty early, and
Yep.
so, yeah, I get to look forward to my workout all day. I on the weekends, I do knock it out first thing just because if I wanna relax, like, if I go home, then I'm just gonna wanna sleep and chill all day. So I just go straight from work and then knock it out.
So are you the kind of person that listens to like the death punch screamo stuff, or are you more like a hip hop rap kind
The
of
first few
person?
years of lifting, I think I had every, like, death metal song memorized forever. But if you lift, and through college I trained really hard, like 3 to 6 hours a day, just
Holy
because
cow.
I wanted to be the best. Like my goal, I started powerlifting my freshman year, and I really wanted to go to Worlds. That was my whole goal. I was like, this other girl went to Worlds. Like I want to be the best in America. Maybe not the best in the world because I know those Russians and Germans like to get that juice a little bit. So I was just like, I just want to be the best in America. So I'm gonna do everything I can to get there. So trained super hard there, but then since then I've just kind of dialed it back a little bit, and because of that, because you're training 3 to 6 hours a day, you listen to a lot of music, and if that was the same music, so I really listen to whatever's new. I just love anything new, and because now I used to really get emotional when I lifted, and I had a lot of like childhood stuff that I was working out, and some later in life stuff that I was working out emotionally, like with the weights, but I'm kind of past that now, and I just love to train, and I think it makes me a better person, like a more patient person, very disciplined. Love how training is like the physical representation of the growth mindset. And so even when I don't want to go, or if I'm not like super ragey or like in it, I still go just because it's what I do. It's like makes me a better person. So kind of listen to lighter stuff now.
Yeah, I completely agree with you though. Like I try to, when we coach people, I try to make sure no one ever misses a workout, because like that workout, even if you're having a bad day, it could be the best part of your day. And I think people really shy away from exercise sometimes because it can be intimidating. It's one of the few things in life that, you are both the marble and the sculptor at the same time. You are shaping your body, but you're not going to do that without a little bit of pain in the process. But if you can fall in love with that pain and fall in love with that process of remaking yourself, that's powerful stuff right there. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the death metal, and then now you're kind of mellowing out. I kind of fall into that same category myself. When I started lifting, Bring Me the Horizon was like one of my top bands.
So
Five
good.
Finger Death Punch. I was like, yeah, this is great. And now, like, just yesterday, I worked out to country music. And I'm just like, how did this happen? Like, how did I go from like Bring Me the Horizon to like Luke Combs for a workout? But it's amazing how we kind of transition over time.
I don't know about you, but for me, I can definitely channel for that time of doing the lift, really like dial in, lock in, kind of lean into the pain and get very mentally focused without all the heavy stuff that I did use to kind of maintain that intensity the whole time. Now I just kind of use it intermittently throughout my workout. I don't know. I think that's like a maturity thing too as you
Yeah.
continue your training.
Yeah, for sure. And it kind of depends on the day too. Like for me, we're recording this episode in December, right before I take 4 final exams in a row. So this week will look
You
like
got it.
a, heavy dose of Pop Evil, Theory of a Dead Man, like the more heavy stuff. And maybe after this, we'll chill it back out. Maybe go with like, I don't know, some throwbacks or something like that. But you kind of end up channeling the music to your mood, I think.
I totally agree.
And music is a great way to help block out some of the internet warriors that might creep into your DMs sometimes. I'm sure you don't know
Oh,
anything about that though, right?
I love them. I love them. I think it's so funny. Like, I don't think there was ever a time where I really gave a shit about anything that people said online because, to be honest, like, I have a great circle of friends and I hold their opinions very high. But anyone besides that, if I don't know you, if I don't respect you, I don't give a shit what you have to say. There's 8 billion people in the world. I don't
Mhm.
have time to please everyone, and I don't try to. I'm actually making a little book for my coffee table of like the funniest screenshots that I've taken in my DMs, just so when people like come over, they can kind of flip through it. I think it's literally hilarious, and some of them are very creative. I don't know. I love it. It's great.
It's amazing to me how many people have like nothing better to do in their day than to sit there on their phones and make comments about someone else's achievements. It's just they're kind of like the hermit crabs of life. They're just sitting there hiding out and talking the talk behind a screen. But when you meet them in life, they're just kind of hiding out and shelling around. I'm trying to keep that crab pun going here. And like 9 times out of 10 they're like a fake account or they have like 5 followers or something like
Yeah.
that. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, I'm just too busy. Like, I don't know. I barely have time to comment on people that I love. I'm like, oh my God, I love your stuff, or you're so strong, or whatever. I can imagine just taking time in a day to spread negativity. But hey, some people just need a hobby and they haven't found it yet. So good
Yeah,
luck to them.
for sure. And I also noticed you have like this really cool custom lifting belt. So where might someone get a custom lifting belt like that? Because
My
that's
mom made
awesome.
that for me, actually.
Really?
Yeah, she got it for me. It says no bull on the inside, just for like no bullshit. I used to be very like into that brand just because I really think Brooke Ents is so admirable and just incredible body, incredible athlete. And I love strong women. And she was like one of the first really strong women that I ever saw. And I love that. My mom, yeah, she so cute, is my favorite colors. I think she got it from Pioneer Belts, but I do know that they make incredible custom belts. I've seen a few of theirs,
I'll
but
ha-
I don't know if they're USAPL approved belts. So just got to be careful of that.
I'll have to look into those because I saw that thing and I'm like, that's cool. I like that a
Yeah,
lot.
I had to wear a slingshot belt, which I love the brand slingshot. But I wore that I think senior year for like our competitions. But I do love training in that belt. And I recently did a USPA meet just because like it was my first meet in 2 years, and I just kind of wanted to do something close and local, get back into it. I was like really nervous to kind of just do a meet again, and I wore my belt and it was fine for USPA. So
That's awesome. And I mean, how like alpha is it to be able to say like you have your own belt, like it has your name on it and everything? Like it's really cool.
I don't know about alpha, but it does. My mom has always supported me in like everything that I've done lifting wise. Her and my stepdad actually, I got a pair of Noble shoes. It's like 2 years into lifting, and they're like, yeah, one's for me and one's for your mom because they're pretty expensive for my birthday. So yeah, she's always been lovely, and it does make me feel close to her. So
Yeah, for sure. Now, in addition to custom belts and all these other training things, I know you're really into your health there and you wear like a continuous glucose monitor. Yeah, how does that change or how do you monitor that with your training?
well, this is a recent thing actually. My
Okay.
stepdad has Alzheimer's, so he is monitoring his glucose to try to keep him at a pretty steady level. It's really good for your brain health, good for your body, and it keeps your insulin resistance low. You don't want to have a high insulin resistance because that can lead to diabetes. So definitely has impacted my training in a few ways. When I just eat like how I want to eat, if I ate based on my hunger, which I did after my meet during kind of the week of Thanksgiving, I was giving myself a break a little bit from training and like from forcing myself to eat so much all the time. And my glucose levels were so low, like in the 60s, one night in the 30s, in the 50s, and I just felt so tired all the time and and sometimes just really weak. Not great, but I did need that kind of mental break from like eating 6 times a day to try
Hmm.
to fuel my body, because that's like can be annoying and exhausting. And cooking all the food is the worst thing ever. I'm a terrible cook. Thankfully, I like you just got a meal prep Sunday. I try to eat to evolve, but I like meal prep Sunday better, and they're in San Diego, so I love their food. So it's been better. But anyways, you want to keep your glucose levels from like 80 to 140, and if I eat like 6 times a day, then I can keep it within that range. And I try to spike it a little bit before I work out with some pre-workout carbs, and then I maintain that elevation with Carbolin, which is just like glucose that you can take in a powder, and then also immediately after, just so I can funnel the protein and carbs into my muscle cells.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like your constant investment to your health, and you're looking at it from all aspects, not just like the physical training piece. And I think that's something so many people kind of miss in their training. They think, it's all about how I look or how I perform, and they forget the longevity piece to things, right? You don't want to just be lifting for 5, 10 years and then, your shoulders ache and you've got this going on and that going on. Uh, I know this is typically an issue we see more with runners. They end up insulin resistance, and they develop metabolic syndrome just from taking in so many carbs all the time. But it can happen to lifters and anyone really. So I really applaud you on your efforts to, dial that in and stay in tune with what's going on in your body from a physiological perspective. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just think it's so interesting. Like, I'm a huge nerd. Tim Ferriss has my whole heart. Oh my gosh. And like Rhonda Patrick, she's incredible. I think longevity is super interesting. And in terms of maximizing quality of life, like there will be times where I drink or like I eat like shit, but I just feel so much better when I don't. And I feel so much better when I eat to fuel my body and for longevity. So that's why.
Right. And now you have the ability to gather actual data on your own body. So if you try some of these different things, you mentioned Rhonda Patrick. So I'm sure you've tried cold exposure at some point, whether that be cold bath or cryotherapy or whatever. So now you can
Yeah.
actually like see what that does to your own insulin levels or your blood glucose levels. There's research about that, but that doesn't mean that what they see in the research article is what's happening in your body. So it's cool that you now have the ability to kind of become your own case study, so to speak.
Right. And my recent thing, which is so cool, is for my birthday. This is so nerdy, but I wanted a hydrogen water maker. Basically, it infuses molecular hydrogen into the water. So it's not like H2O2, but H2O and then hydrogen infused. And the hydrogen can enter through like the blood-brain barrier and basically reduce oxidative stress, which is good for your mental state and good for your overall health. And then what the next thing that I'm saving it up for, my dad paid for half of it for my birthday present, but it's an ozone machine. So
Mhm.
that's like in the works. But I don't know, I'm super jazzed about it. And I've been drinking so much water, just like hydrogen get in my body. Um, it's more of like a long-term thing. It's not something that you really feel, but I'm like, maybe in a year I'll feel it. I just got it like last week because my birthday's Monday. So
Well, happy belated early birthday, I guess, because
thank
it's
you. Yeah,
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Well, we'll release this well after your birthday, unfortunately. But
Okay.
um, so do you play around with any other biohacks like red light or blue light glasses, or is it mostly
Yes.
just yeah, that's right
Yeah,
up
I
your
have blue
alley,
light
huh?
glasses. I used to wear glasses, and when I got PRK, it was really weird because at night I would always put glasses on. It was kind of a good cue for me to like kind of wind down and get ready for bed. So I invested in, and I got my lenses switched out with just some blue light
Hmm.
glasses. I do like that. And then in the evenings, I have just a red light in my room. I try to minimize the amount of blue light that enters into my eyeballs. So
Yep. Yeah, I use Swanwick. It's the dark orange tint, and if you're out in public at all wearing those things, you get some interesting looks. Um, and lately I've been doing the red light panel before bed. That was something we talked about with Devin Burke a few weeks ago on the podcast. He was a huge fan of the red light. And
really.
when I'm not here in town, when I'm back home at my parents, where we've got, land and places to go and no neighbors around to judge you for anything. I like to go outside and do what's called earthing. So you go barefoot on the ground, and it's supposed to help, emit, um, connect your electrical system in your body to the ground and allow electrons and different things to escape your body. I can't really speak in all those high-tech scientific chemistry terms anymore because it's been about 5 years since I took chemistry. But there's some cool stuff out there about those things. So I think it's really awesome that you're into the biohacking, and it's more of a longevity game for you. It's not just the, immediate performance right now.
Yeah.
So we've talked about custom belts. We've talked about all these things that you're into. You're also really into, I know, painting, and you do custom painting for people, and this is kind of like your passion. So what brought you into painting? When did you start doing that?
I thought I was gonna get in trouble at the Naval Academy. I thought I was gonna get put on restriction. So I was like, okay, I need another indoor hobby because when you're on restriction, you can't leave the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, well, I love wine and canvas, but I don't drink really, not usually. And I also don't like when they tell me what to do because I would always just go and paint whatever. So I was like, well, why can't I just paint, I went to Michael's, I picked some stuff up and then just started painting in my room. And eventually my college room was covered in paintings. I would put like trash bags on the ground to protect the floor. And now as an adult, my apartment is covered in paintings. And people started buying them, which was awesome because it kind of offset the expenses of painting so much, which I could paint all day, every day. I love it. But it's just like a really good off day hobby for me because back in college, like I love lifting so much and I needed it and I wanted to destroy my body every day. And that's not really optimal for training, but for like my mental health, I just craved it. And so to find something else that I could pour myself into emotionally and like, I don't want to say spiritually, but just really connect with something else so deeply that kind of got me into a flow state. I find like lifting to be very meditative and painting to be very meditative. I'm chugging coffee right now because last night I stayed up till like 1 a.m. because I was in the middle of all these paintings and I just lost track of time and I wasn't tired. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to wake up at 6. So yeah, I don't know. That's how I got into it. And I just recently made a website for it, katypaints.com. So I'm like super excited about that just so that people can see my work and kind of see my why. I'm just gonna go on and on. But about a year ago, I like wanted to do something more meaningful with painting. I was like, what is my why behind painting? Because I do it for myself personally, and I definitely think that it's a form of therapy. And I do go to talk therapy and stuff like that. I love that. I think it's very helpful to like optimize your emotional health. But I kind of wanted to help other people get there. And so I was looking into organizations and trying to find what I connected with, what I care about. And I found RAIN, which is this incredible organization that supports sexual assault survivors, specifically children. This is a very important cause to me and my family. Just hold it very near and dear. And to be able to provide like those survivors with therapy and the resources that they will need to recover, because I mean, I can't prevent bad people from doing bad things, but I would love to be able to, hey, like this happened to you, but it is not who you are. And you can become so strong out of that and like turn it into something beautiful. Because I'll be on, like, I would not be this strong if I didn't have so much hurt and anger to pour into my lifts for all those years. And like, I don't lift like that anymore because I'm not hurting anymore, but you know what I'm saying? Like it just, you want to direct the negative emotions into a good outlet so that your life can become better because of it. And you become more empathetic for others, vice like just kind of spiraling.
Right. You are not what's happened to you, but what you choose to become. And what you chose to become is a person who takes her hobbies and passions and uses them for the greater good of those around you by donating to organizations like RAIN, and for sharing your creative works with so many different people through your website, your social media, and who even knows how many more people will see them now that you're selling your paintings online. If someone purchases one of your paintings, many people could see that you never even know of. I like that one behind you on the left. Is that, what'd you call that? Eye of the swordfish, I think it was.
Yes. Okay. So I'll show you. After a lift one day, I just like could not stop thinking of this idea on the way home from the gym. And this is the quickest I've ever turned out a painting, but it's the biggest one I have done to date. And I don't know, I love this one. I made it for our house specifically. So
That's incredible.
this is our carpet that's never on the ground because it's always covered in tarp.
And with the painting too, it's just such a therapeutic way to express yourself and get emotion out. While ago, this is probably almost a year ago, we actually had Dr. Grant Taylor on the show, and he actually talked about the art therapy program that he helped institute at a college in Pennsylvania, and they were using that with veterans to help cope with PTSD. And it's amazing just how powerful giving someone the tools to express themselves can be. And we're talking art in general here. I am certainly not called to painting. I am nowhere near as good as you are. I wouldn't even know where to start.
You don't have time. You're getting a doctorate, right?
Yeah. People tell me like, oh, did you see this show on Netflix? Or, hey, here's what I did this past weekend. And I'm just like, that's cool. I read another chapter in this textbook.
I haven't watched TV in years.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, seriously. The only time I watch TV is when we every now and then throw on an episode of Grey's Anatomy and point out all the inaccuracies in the show.
Wait, what? What inaccuracies?
There's a few medical inaccuracies, just a few.
Because I literally am like, I'm basically a doctor. I am binge watching the whole seasons all over again. And the plane crash just happened, and I cried so hard in my bathtub 2 days ago, like violent. It was really bad.
That show is a roller coaster. That's the kind of show that you just kind of watch, and then you end up either going to the gym afterwards or something like that, because it takes you on a ride. There are some things that they do get correct though, so I give them credit for that, but there's some things that they mention and I'm just like no. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example right now. The one that comes to mind is when they say to push epi and they just keep pumping them full of epi more and more and more and more. There's a actual limit to how much epi you can put in a human body.
The limit does not exist, okay? Not in grades.
I will be linking to Katie's painting website below, so if you want to check that out, and I highly recommend you do, you can just click there instead of, you can re-listen to the episode too if you want, but this will simplify it so you don't have to re-listen to the episode. Was that your dog?
Yes. Come here. I'm also dropping NFTs tomorrow on my birthday. So that'll be my first release on December 13th.
Is there anything you're not doing?
Sleeping.
Yeah, you got 4 hours last night.
I don't know. Life just feels really exciting right now. And like, I just feel so passionate. I appreciate sleep and all that it does, especially medically, but I'm like, I could be doing all these other things.
Right. And amongst those other things is bench pressing, which seems to be like your thing, your favorite thing. So when it comes to bench pressing, I mean, I feel like so many people do it wrong. Like they don't know how to bench press. So like from the setup to what grip should they use to should they arch or not arch and how much arch should they use. And, people will ask me like, how do I build leg drive through the bench? Or, what do you mean by pulling the bar down instead of pushing it? And all these different things. It's such a popular lift, but so few people actually do it correctly. And who better to break down the bench press than someone like you, who's literally an animal with it. So where do you start when you're coaching people with the bench press, or where do you start when you're bench pressing yourself?
I will say that correct version of bench press does depend on what your goals are. So the way that I bench is definitely not optimal for building pec muscles, though I do have pec muscles. I would say it's not optimal for bodybuilding. So just putting that out there. The arch does help protect my front delts and my upper pec when I do bench, because I tend to use a lot more back. The muscles of your back are obviously bigger than your upper chest and front delts. So the way that I start, I'm just going to come back here, is I get under the bench. I'm going to make a bench video soon and I'll put it out. but I put my middle fingers on the rings just because that's where it causes my elbows to be directly, my wrist to be directly over my elbows when it's touching my chest. So that's what you want from a physics perspective. I'm like a huge physics nerd, and if you can optimize the mechanics of the way that you're benching, then you'll be really good at it because you're kind of using physics with you on your side versus fighting against it. And that's like a huge reason of why I'm decent at bench. So you start there, and that's where I find it to be optimal. You want to set your back right here onto the bench, and then kind of like inchworm your way up a little bit. The normal force from the bench pushing you down from the weight will keep your back pinned. So when you use leg drive to build all that tension in your back, you'll stay in the right spot, and that's what will create the arch. But essentially for leg drive, I find that it's the best for me to kind of build continuous force or tension, or like try to imagine my toes going through the front of my shoes this way, like I'm sliding back in a chair this way, versus pushing down through the ground, because that'll keep your feet on the bench, that'll keep your butt on the bench. I said feet on the bench, on the ground, which is important for lifting. And yeah, and then you just kind of build the tension the whole time, versus like a lot of people like to wait until they're right here and then they kind of shove, which is just not going to be your strongest position, because if you're tight the whole time, you're squeezing, there's continuous tension there, then your back will be in its strongest position throughout your whole bench press. So I set up back on the bench, set my feet right, brace, so like inhale and kind of make like a pregnant like turtle stomach, so you're flexing your abs like all cute and stuff, like a big, I call it like a dad meatloaf stomach, you know, those dads that like have a beer belly after all this time. So it'll be like really hard, like a turtle shell, and you kind of, and then apply tension. I imagine like I'm bending a pretzel in half, and what that does is, if you look at my lats real quick, bam, boom, engage. That it's like little bat wings, and they engage. So have the bar here, engage the bat wings, and then bring it down right here, which is like the tallest point when I am benching, and then just right back up, and then back. And then just one more thing, and one great thing that Sean Noriega makes me do that I really hated at first, but I pause every bench I ever do, and like 1 or 2 seconds on the chest every single rep, even if I'm doing sets of 10. And this is incredible for building my bench and for building my tolerance for pauses. In my last meet, I did the SU Fit Expo. My freaking first attempt, they made me pause for a total of like 3 seconds. Like on camera, you can see 3 seconds. And I'm down here and I'm paused. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Like, the head judge. And he's like, I can see a little bit of light under the thing. Lower it a little more. I was like, okay. So then we're talking while I have 265 on my chest. and then they're like, all right, up. And then it's like, okay, cool. And it was a good lift, but I was like, oh my gosh, apparently there's like this much. That's on me. But I was like, if I hadn't trained to pause so long on my chest, like probably would have died during that bench.
Wow. So that really just goes to show that size matters, I guess, huh?
Yes, especially in this case.
You had me at, what was it, pregnant turtle and bat wings? Like, those are references I've never heard before, but I like them.
I'm pretty metaphorical, but my clients seem to like it, and it does help them just understand. Because if a cue doesn't work for a certain client, then you have to think of something else that helps them connect the mind muscle. You know what I mean? Because if you can't imagine how it's supposed to feel in your brain, then there's no way it's hard to do it if you don't have a really good body awareness.
Exactly. And I think that's the mistake so many people make is they walk into the gym, they go right over to the bench press, no warm up whatsoever. And, maybe they throw 135 or 185 on the bar and they just start pressing. They don't take the time to pay attention to detail. They don't tense up. Each rep looks a little bit different. There's no consistency. And if you really want to get good at one of these movements, and I say that as someone who is not as strong as Katie, so just reminding people of that. If you really want to get good at doing these movements, you have to practice them like anything, and the movements have to be consistent, right? How you press a empty bar will ideally look the same as you pressing 225 or 275 or whatever. It's the consistency of movement over and over again. And that leads to more efficient movement just by practice. So the more you do it the same, the better you'll get at doing that movement over time. And the more you intentionally go about these things like creating tension in your body and activating different muscle groups, the better off you'll be at doing that when you have a heavy load under the bar.
I completely agree. Hey.
Your dog even agrees.
I know she does. But the reason my bench is so much better than my squat and deadlift is because when I first started squatting, I was high bar squatting. And then I switched to low bar 2 years into powerlifting. And deadlift, I have switched back and forth from sumo and conventional because doing single ply, I don't know what kind of crazies out there can do single ply conventional deadlift, but I feel like the pressure, I'm going to die. So I pulled sumo and conventional. And those inconsistencies are the reason that like my squat and deadlift have lagged behind my bench, because my bench has been the same since I started lifting.
Right. Now, when it comes to the bench, you mentioned that you pause every rep. Do you do any other, like, what will I say, advanced training techniques? Like, do you do the band resistance or the reverse band, or are you breaking out the chains, or are you pretty consistent on how you bench?
I've done that stuff. I don't love it. When I go to the gym, like I got to get in, get out. You know what I'm saying? And like doing all the chains and the bands, I think that they do overload training, like has been proven to work better than just not doing it. But the setup for me, I don't know. Like I just don't have the time in my life where I want to do that. Back when I powerlifted at the Naval Academy, we were all a team doing it together, and I had nowhere else to go. You know, I was training 5-6 hours a day, so like that was fine. But now when I have a window to train, it's like 2 hours max. So I'll do like alternatives. I do a lot of spoto press. I do a medium grip bench press, which is where I put my pinkies. It's just very slight, but the difference is huge. And I put my pinkies on the rings by my middle finger, and it's almost like a close grip, except just not nearly as close. I do a lot of dumbbell bench. So I do variations, which aren't so specific to build all the other muscles. Obviously we do accessories, but no like chains or bands and stuff. Just because, I mean, normally I'm working out alone too, and you really do need a partner if you're going to overload train like that.
Yeah, for sure. And a partner who knows your limitations, right? You know, you have to be willing to push through some of that instead of, I remember the first time I tried 315, I like paused for like half a second on the way up. And next thing I know, the bar's being deadlifted off of me. And I'm like, wait a second.
I'd be so mad. Yeah. I stopped letting people lift me off. I actually lifted myself off at the last meet, like did 303 because just by myself, because I stopped trusting people at the gym. To lift me off, because just because you're a big dude doesn't mean that you can give a good handoff. And this guy almost dislocated my shoulder, and I was like, this cannot be the end of my bench queen career. So
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I just got good at self handoffs.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And it started after back in high school football days. This was forever ago. When I got a lift from someone, they ended up lifting the bar up, but then pushed it way far forward. So next thing I know, I'm way out here instead of up here. And I haven't actually benched with like someone giving me a lift off that I can remember anyways in years. There might've been like 1 or 2 instances in there, but I just prefer not to. What's your go-to accessory for bench press? What's your one exercise that you would say, you know, really helps you build your bench outside of bench pressing more?
Yeah. I do like to switch it up, honestly. And I think a lot of back accessories in general, like rows, play the biggest role in improving my bench press, which seems kind of silly, but like that and benching, I bench at a pretty low RPE multiple times a week. Like I bench 5 times a week doing different variations, different like heavy sets, volume sets, whatever. But I think just developing your back, and like I love pull-ups personally, but I think rows help with bench the most.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on back. It's personally my favorite muscle to work out. And I think there's something just metaphorically about having like a wide, dense back that is just so satisfying. Pull-ups are actually my favorite exercise too. That's just one of those exercises that it's like, so many people struggle with it, but if you're good at it, it's like, wow, look at this guy over here. Like, look at what he's doing. So if you're struggling with your pull-ups, please feel free to reach out and we can help you learn to pull up. I almost made a Dom Mazzetti quote there. You mentioned briefly that you had sumo deadlift and regular deadlift and then high bar squat and now low bar squat. Um, when it comes to squats and deadlifts, what's your take on those? I know we focus mostly on the bench press, but I figured you're a power lifter, so might as well talk about the other two.
Yeah, I high bar as an accessory now for my low bar squats, which I love. I think low bar is most mechanically advantageous for powerlifting, but back when I was a sophomore in college, I didn't have the shoulder flexibility to hold it down here. So every day after practice, I would just practice like holding the bar 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And I would cry. It hurt so bad to develop that. I would straight up cry. And then over time, it just kind of got better. So thankfully now I have limited, but still shoulder flexibility. It does take some warm up. But sumo versus conventional, genuinely, like I think that sumo is more advantageous for powerlifting if you can do it. It hurts my hips to the point where like I just don't want to do it. And I mean, no one's forcing me to powerlift. Like I just love to lift, which is why I do it. So I lift conventional because I prefer it and I can give more effort to it because it's not hurting me. Like when I sumo deadlift, it feels like when you pull a chicken wing off of a rotisserie chicken, that sound. I just can feel that just happening to my hips. I do not love it. I do not love it at all. And I know that probably won't happen. But like, what if you drop the weight on your toes? Oh my God. I do not prefer it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I kind of use like a modified sumo, I call it. It's like wider but not too wide, but my hands go right in the middle. And yeah, deadlift's an interesting one. You can really learn a lot about yourself by deadlifting because it's so simple, right? Just pick the weight up.
Yeah.
But it's
But it's so not.
it's so hard. It's so hard. So what's coming up in the future for you, Katie? Do you have any upcoming competitions planned, or are you launching like an app, or what's the future looking like?
I am currently talking to Kelly right now and Sean about nationals and maybe doing nationals. Personally, I like to limit my meets to like 1 to 2 a year. Really don't love doing meets because you have to take a week off before meet. During the meet, you're just like, it's a day of caffeination and just, oh my gosh, it's hard to maintain like that level of crazy often. And then after the meet, it feels like you got hit by a car. So like after my last meet, my pec has been a bit sore. And so I'm getting body work done and stuff like that, but it kind of hurts to raise my arm. And I don't love that either because then it just detracts from me being able to go to the gym and just haze myself for 2 hours. So, but Kabuki like saw some of my bench press videos and he thought they were pretty good. And I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, if I had the opportunity to compete at nationals or perhaps like try to qualify for Team USA, that's kind of the direction that I'm trending. However, Navy is my priority. So if I can do it with my job the way that it is, I recently competed in this USBA meet locally in San Diego, which wasn't a drug testing meet, which is frustrating because like I didn't want to travel out of state. I mean, you got to get leave approved. It's like this whole thing with COVID mitigations. So we'll see. Like that's if I were to do anything, that's kind of the direction that I'm going. If not, like I'll just wait until next year and do a qualifying meet a little bit more in advance. Because for me, I'd have to do a qualifier and then do nationals in March, and that's just like it's a little close together for my liking.
Yeah, that's a lot real quick. So
Yeah.
what's your go-to meal after a meet? I know some people will post like these like epic IHOP cheat meals or Waffle House cheat meals. What's your post-meet meal?
Well, usually during a meet, I'm carbing up all day.
Yep.
So after this meet, I had the best steak. Oh my God, I had a fat freaking steak, like New York. Oh, so good. So I just want meat. Like I just want protein because all day I'm like gummy bears, bread, banana, whatever. I'm just like, if I eat one more carb, I'm gonna die. Plus, honestly, I kind of eat like whatever I want. anyways, unless I'm really actively cutting. I usually have 3 to 4 pints of Ben and Jerry's a week.
Holy cow.
Yeah, because I told you about the glucose, right? And like
Yep.
eating 6 times a day. That is exhausting. Like it's exhausting, and I'm never hungry really for it. I'm like, oh great, chicken and rice again. And I'm a terrible cook too, so it's not like it tastes that good. It's not bad. It's edible sometimes, most of the time. But in order to like kind of, if I'm feeling like low on energy, then I'll just have Ben and Jerry's, and then I just feel great the next day. Which my mom, it just blows her mind. She's like, "What do you mean you eat so much ice cream during the week? Sugar's so bad for you." And I agree. I completely agree. But I just don't have it within my heart to eat 1,200 calories of chicken and rice extra a day. So
Yeah,
so just go
seriously.
for like the quick cals. And I ate a pint of Ben and Jerry's every single day since freshman year. Freshman year, I was a soccer player in high school. I started out weighing 133, and now I'm like 173. So put on some good muscle that way.
Yeah, for sure. And like in your case, you kind of need it for muscle glycogen and the performance that you're putting out. Not everyone can do what you do after all.
I wouldn't say that you need it. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who could eat differently. Like it would be better if I just had straight carbs and protein, because honestly, Ben and Jerry's are mostly just fats. But like just calorically, I just get exhausted of eating. So
Yeah, I don't blame you. You got to mix it up once in a while.
yeah.
So maybe after the painting, you can take a cooking lesson or two or something there, right?
Yeah, I really need it. It's so bad. We just didn't grow up like cooking all the time. So I don't know. I'm learning. When I graduated from college, I lived on cottage cheese and Hawaiian rolls for like maybe a whole month. I lost 15 pounds after graduating from school because they always fed you at the Naval Academy, and then you live on your own. And I was like, my friend Anna Maximic, she came over. She's like, dude, you're literally starving to death. What are you doing? So we made these weird, yummy sandwiches. And then my friend Keo taught me how to make like steak in a pan, which is basic. It's so pathetic. It's really pathetic, but whatever.
So how do you like your steak?
Medium rare.
Okay, that is the good answer, acceptable
Oh, yeah.
answer. I was really hoping you weren't gonna say like well done or something like that.
Crispy.
Yeah. Medium rare, maybe a little touch towards the medium, but I want it
I
rare.
like it touch towards the rare. I would eat it. Oh, I love it. I just like the taste of meat. I
Yeah.
shouldn't say that in a podcast. Whatever.
Here we go again. Katie,
Okay.
is there anything else you want to share with those listening?
If you're listening, thank you so much for listening. Very kind of you to care about what I have to say. And if you ever have questions or want coaching, please reach out. I'm more than happy to pay for the knowledge that I've learned.
What was your Instagram and website and all that again, just so people hear it again?
Insta is Katie Paints and Katie Lifts. So Katyliftz, and then KatyPaintz. And then my website is www.com, Katie Paints. I said www.com. It's katypaints.com. All right, just type it in.
We'll link to all of it below.
Or yeah, just link it.
All right. Katie, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, and it was awesome having you on.
Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Brawn Body Health and Fitness Podcast. If you like this episode, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast and check us out on social media at Brawn Body on all platforms. Additionally, we'd really appreciate it if you left a review, especially on iTunes and Spotify, and if you would share this episode with a friend who you think might enjoy the content that we are putting out. Last, if you want to help support the podcast to keep our episodes going and continue to help us welcome amazing guests onto the show, please check out any of our links in the description below. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.